All right. Okay, so we're recording. What we're doing here is we asked Ryan at Fireside Sloyd to do a demo of his small eating spoons, and he's been kind enough to do it. His spoons have some certain mystical qualities to them, and Ryan said that he has techniques to show us that are going to, quote, turn the spoon world on its head, end quote.
Oh dear.
So there was no way. So there was no way we were going to pass this up. So I'm going to spotlight Ryan, and he's going to start with a mostly uncarved billet. Thanks so much, Ryan, for doing this. So, oh, I think I spotlighted the wrong camera. Let me spotlight the up close cam. Which one is that? This one here. Replace spotlight. All right, there we go. Oh, I got two spotlights. I'm going to remove. All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, Kevin. A lot of nice things said there. I'll just barrel through here. So I've got my template. This template is actually available at the Spoon Crank. Selfless plug. Gotta get that out there. But yeah, I'll just put it on there. Mark where I would put the crank. Just a couple little something there to go by.
What kind of wood is that, Ryan?
This is walnut, and it is mostly tangential. It kind of curves it a little bit, but yeah, I'm sorry, radial split. All right, so then I would take my saw.
So you marked the crank, and now you're sawing a stop cut right into where the crank is going to be.
Yeah, I like sawing a stop cut. I mean, it can be, I think as we all know, it can be done either way. But I don't know. I like the safety and security, I guess, of the stop cut. So there, it's.
And then how about large are your billets that you're starting with, Ryan? Because I know that your eating spoons have a slightly shorter handle than I'm typically looking at, and your template's so nice on the spoon crank too with that shorter handle. Larger.
So compared to the template,
mm-hmm.
It's pretty close.
Yep.
I usually leave like a little bit of room. Lately, I've been liking a little ball finial. Mm-hmm. So there's just a little bit of room there when it makes it just under 7 inches.
Right.
So it looks like you orient it so the tip is pretty close to the sawn edge, and then you leave yourself a little room on the handle side.
You know, and at the max, I've got a little over 1.5 inches. I don't know, 1 5/8. Nice. Not super big billet. What were you saying, Kevin?
Just that it looks like you put the tip right up to the sawn edge, but you left yourself a little room at the handle side.
So pretty close, but also what'll happen is because I put the tip there and I drew the line here, when I draw it at an angle, this is going to be longer, just no matter what. So then like it'll kind of scooch the tip back inherently, even if I keep it, if I draw it on the same line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So then.
Look at that rack of axes. Love it.
Chair back, that's clever.
Works quite well. Yeah, then I would just take and knock the corners off, you know, like kind of normal, and just go with some right, and bring it down to that line on this side, and then I've got to do the same thing over here.
Nice.
Right, so then it's starting to be like fairly, I could probably take a little off this up here to get it symmetrical-ish, I guess. And then we'll just take off this little center bit. right? Then I would take off like the back corners of the handle or the back of the handle. It's not perfect, a little bit wrong on that side, but it'll do.
Mike Bray shaking his head in disgust.
Why?
When you said it's not perfect, he made a tisk tisk.
Okay.
I was
So
kidding.
Now
His best shop teacher face.
we've got this,
It's wonderful.
right? So then I would take it over here, flip it on the side.
This is a technique that it took me a while to learn to do and learn to be comfortable with, but it really makes a difference in your ability to axe because you can get so many different directions and so many different cuts. So this is otherwise you'd be like holding it up on the teetering edge, trying to axe down with your hands, like piddly holding it at the tip. That's a good
Right,
technique.
yeah, it would not do well, but here we can see it's pretty well
God, look
level.
how pretty that walnut is too.
Yeah.
I've got a ways to go yet on this side, but like when I sight down it, I think, yeah, it
Yeah, I
looks
can
pretty.
see it looks- we can see it too. It looks level. Nice work, cameraman. Camera person. Who do we have doing your camera work, Ryan?
This is my wife. This is Jessica.
Nice.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks so much for helping, Jessica. You're doing a great job so far. And it's nice of you to indulge us here and to help out with this. Nice.
Mhm.
Okay. So, I mean, that's good enough for me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks nice and square.
So then I'll take off.
Okay, so how recently did you saw the two edges of this billet?
I actually just saw this bit of walnut today. It's pretty old and stewed walnut, but definitely still quite a bit of moisture in it. It's pretty chilly actually. So yeah, it's pretty freshly cut.
Yeah, I always feel better about getting my spoon bowl right up to the sawn edge if it's been sawn very recently. That way there's less checking and cracking in it.
Oh,
Or-
same situation there.
Yeah, that looks good.
Let's take. That down, and so that's where I will draw on my template. Okay,
So you
really sit down for it.
So you put the template down into the crank, right? You don't compensate for it in any way so that the template gets a little bit probably longer that way. I think so.
Yeah, that's good. There's no point to that bowl.
Yeah, I noticed that deficiency too, Kyle. That's funny that you pointed it out. I thought about the template we're on right now, the number 20. I thought about carving one with a point on it, but so far I've resisted.
Somebody did, didn't they? I saw somebody's with like a Roma style point on it.
My version of Ryan's spoon that I carved without the benefit of his tutorial got a little bit pointier than his, but not quite as pointy as it could be.
And then Ryan, when you're
That'll do.
establishing,
What's that?
when you're establishing kind of your crank and the shape of your spoon, the two that I have from you, you have a pretty straight line for your handle and then the bowl comes out. Do you ever do curves, or is it the aesthetic of having kind of that straight point and then having a really lovely full spoon crank, if that makes sense?
So actually for this spoon that I'm doing here, I usually do a pretty curvy, like
Okay.
swoopy in handle.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the ones that you have, as I remember, I know for sure the one that you just showed. No, I think both of them. Those are more like just like one-off freehand type things.
Cool.
And I seem to remember like bold facets, right? That
Yes, bold facets. Yeah.
yeah. So I can also grab like at a certain point in this, I can grab, you know, a finished one of these and show it if you'd like. So anyhow, I would go here then and come down the handle, this side.
Now it's a pretty thin blank already, so these side cuts should be pretty easy, right? They don't take a lot of force.
Yeah, this doesn't take a ton, and I will in the next step of mine here kind of thin this corner just to make it a little bit easier to get into the neck here.
But where's the child bothering you while you do this?
Why you have to talk about Jessica like that, Kyle? We said we were going to be nice tonight.
You requested me.
I would say he's in Maryland.
Oh, so you said you thin the back corner, and that makes it easier to cut into the neck. Is that right?
Yeah, it will over right here. So I thinned this corner here. So then it just makes less material here, which is, you know, this is kind of the weak point anyways in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll actually, in a moment here, I will make stop cuts here at the neck just to be safe.
That's really insightful for me, because I think that's one of the places where our process differs, is that when I'm cutting into the neck, I'm cutting into pretty thick wood. You've already thinned down the back a lot, so that I was struggling to hold it and make big like parallel cuts to get into that neckline.
Yeah, the neck won't be, doesn't need to have like super power cuts, I would say.
Right, it looks like you're
Some there.
It looks like you're doing a nice job really removing a lot of wood with pretty like measured cuts.
Like this I could thin out right here on the front side of the bowl here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a ton, but I think it would be helpful to just kind of get that down. And then that's when, you know, the safety of the bump cut.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like my safety, I mean the spoon blank safety of not biting into the bowl and taking off way too much. And then really the same thing here. We can just see that, like, you know, this distance from this edge to this edge, it's quite a bit less than this to here, yet the crank is back here. So we're going to want to take that down, just make my life easier when I get to the knife.
And then
really take it.
We had a question from the chat just about your axe block and the height of your axe block and how you kind of set that up for comfort.
You know, I don't even remember how I arrived at like the height of it. I think it's like that. It's like the knuckles like right here, but it was not intentional. I don't remember how I measured or whatever. But it's fine. I don't know. It's actually a pretty small axe block. The whole thing is only like an 8-inch diameter log.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a ring around it too. Is that where the bark peeled off the top 2 inches?
Yeah, the bark started chipping off, so then I just took a saw and cut it evenly all the way around.
What?
All right, so that one's good. What I was saying is we can go down in the corners here because we're going to end up taking it off, so I can take off.
Kaylin, thank you for monitoring the chat. That's
Yeah.
a weakness. That's a weakness of mine. I tend not to care about other people's questions, so I'm glad you're here to provide that service.
Yep.
So now,
I really like seeing
so
you doing all this without taking giant monster cuts. It looks like they're all very measured cuts.
where did I put my salt?
So Ryan, do you wait to go thinner at the tip until you've axed most of the handle off?
I may not go as thin at the tip of the bowl as you might think. I don't.
Okay.
There's probably more thickness there when I go to the knife, because you can really remove that off pretty quickly with the knife. So then I would just do like 2 little stop cuts.
It's a little wavy grain right in the meat of the bowl. That's going to look really cool.
I know, I think this is going to be real pretty. And over here,
Mhm.
Watching you work with this black walnut, I remember how nice how nice it splits and how you could really take advantage of that.
now you see I almost got a little overzealous up top here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Kind of almost did. It'll split the grain a little bit. I'll have to trim it off with the knife, but that's all right.
If you mess up, it's Peter's fault.
I know, these shit axes of his.
Is that a soul axe? Nice, yeah. Lovely.
It is. This one is the small carver,
Yeah, it's small.
and it's probably my favorite.
Right there, that looks so risky to me. Like you're gonna carve right into the bowl, like right into the shoulder, but
Yep.
control that nicely. Kyle, you were thinking the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I get scared. Yeah.
So now I'll just nip off these front corners, which since I made it thin, I kind of got to be a little bit careful and almost like chamfer the one edge, provide a little more meat for it to rest on. And now I can come over here and bang this side off.
Oh, cool. So you cut the first corner thinking about how it would sit on the block to support the second corner.
I've smashed a lot of corners that way
Mhm.
and like crushed the grain. And this is, I make full use of like this little guillotine cut
Yeah, that's a clever.
frequently. That's a good one. And then it can get nice and pretty clean right to the line.
Nice.
And then
This is good camera work, like way better than the actual like spoon work.
oh yeah, no doubt. There's nothing if not a professional.
Really
Yeah.
elevates the experience.
It's Ryan, when you're, and I don't know if we're plugging the spoon crank, but when you're axing blanks for other people, are you getting as close to the line as that, or do you leave a little extra for them to play? Because it's beautiful to see how close to the line you can get for a spoon you're going to carve, just to reduce the knife work. Do you typically do that for everything you axe out, or do you leave the blanks that you sell a little more?
I'm spending more time like getting this one, but it's more in this direction. I'd probably
Yeah.
leave more meat in this way. This one I would get pretty close to the line.
Mhm. Cool.
So now we just got to take off these little back corners here, which is really pretty harmless. I mean, what's the worst you're going to do is like, there's still even a little extra meat here. So
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of risk on this end of things.
Resting on the corner there so that the axe is still mostly going.
That's right. Yeah. I've got, this is actually just the edge of the log, but there's a little split with like a 90-degree bit
Mhm.
here that oftentimes is nice to be able to stick it right in there too. And then I do have
Yeah.
like a normal cutout that the neck would stick in here that I used to use. But I don't know. I've been finding this much nicer lately.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people have a step up on the log, but I mean, if you got that, that's fine. Works well enough.
Yeah, I tend to hang over the corner of the block like that. So one of them, you can see your lines better than the other one.
Right.
Mhm.
This one's blind, so I got it there blind.
Nice.
And then I
Thanks.
would usually just come and nip that off.
Hmm.
And then, I don't know, looking at it, I guess I can thin the tip a little bit. I don't know if I normally would. Be fat in the back of the bowl, so I kind of want to take. All right, I can work with that. Well, this side's a little off. Okay, so good enough. All right.
It's interesting to see. I think I got a lot of the answers I was looking for, how you act such a small blank. It seems like you take smaller cuts and your process is really well thought out so that you're only removing a certain thickness at a time so that you don't ever have to take big swings and you're making one part thin for the next part. So it seems like a good process for people who either are making small blanks that are difficult to hold or people who don't want to take big swings with their axe. I think that's very valuable.
Mhm.
Definitely helpful. Just nip off the corners and everything's a whole lot easier. All right. So now we're at the knives and, we go around the perimeter. So for this, I'd probably generally start right up here and just kind of.
What kind of knife is that? It's got like a beautiful metal shoulder.
This is a Reed Schwartz
Oh, oh, wow.
knife.
That's stacked leather handle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's birch bark.
It's, yeah, stacked.
Yeah, that's nice.
Love this knife.
Beautiful.
All right.
So the idea here is to keep the walls vertical and get that plan view right up to your line.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, with this template for me, I actually want to just remove the line.
Mm.
We just saw kind of a full body shot of you. I'm a little disappointed you're not in your Birkenstocks, but it's still, I guess.
Ah,
Okay.
no Birkenstocks.
So lately, as Kevin and I have been talking about on Rise Up, I've been kind of liking these stop cut shoulder details.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of establishing that right now on, the handle to the bowl.
Mm.
We can see we're kind of getting there here.
I want to see more knitting and like sweaters and stuff.
I think that's a different demo, Kyle. I think that's another night.
I feel like he was asking me to take my shirt off, and I don't know how to feel about that.
But no, this is good too.
Either that or Kyle was asking, he wants me to go get my structure vest from the 90s. That's kind of that material, a knit material.
All right, so I'm going to define the neck a wee bit here more. on that side. Right.
Nice.
So then I just have that little last bit there.
Ryan, how many years are you at this? 2, 3, 4, 5?
3, right?
Okay.
Maybe a couple months over 3, but about 3 years.
How did you come up with your name, Fireside Sloyd?
I don't know. It was probably just more of like, because the thought of carving and stuff was things to be able to do like camping and backcountry type thing. And then, you know, what do you want to do in the backcountry and like at night was something to do by the fire, I guess, that kind of thing. Probably a rip off of Michigan Sloyd and all that kind of thing, you know.
No, I think Fireside Sloyd like immediately conjures a nice image. It's a nice
I do like it. It's definitely grown into me that I like it. But yeah. All right, so I want to take a wee bit more. All right, we'll get the front of the bowl here.
I think it's just helpful for a newer carver like me to see how often you're switching your knife grips. I think I overuse a couple and then I tend to fatigue my hands, but it's great to see this process this close, how often you're switching between the grips.
Yeah, I would.
And Kayla, new? You're not that new.
I know,
Newer.
right?
Yeah,
What is she talking about?
we're all wondering when Kaylin's gonna stop doing the whole I'm just a simple new carver,
One
There's
actually
spoons
like
are awesome.
little old
Yeah,
me, and I don't know things. Yeah.
I know.
when I stop using 2 knife cuts for the entire spoon and like kill my hands, then I'll start tell myself that I'm not newer.
How about when you start taking classes with world-renowned carvers and then winning contests? Maybe that could be the line.
You have a knot right here, which I don't know that it'll make a massive difference. We'll see, because I will end up cutting the rim down, but I'm not too concerned. It'll be fine.
That's pretty tight.
I find little things like that are tricky because you get into a pattern where you know how to carve each side of the spoon, and a little knot like that, all of a sudden you don't know, and your normal rules don't apply.
Yeah, it certainly can have that effect, especially because obviously that's what's going on here is this
Right.
little stub's coming through here, but it could end up as like a cool little feature. Let's see.
That'll be annoying when you're using your spoon knife to get the bottom of the bowl, but I think it's worth it. It usually is frustrating to carve, but then it looks great. And it can even, when things like that dry, they can really mess with like sometimes a knot in the bowl, you carve it smooth and it's dry and it's graceful, and then you come back 2 days later and there's a huge bump there and you're like, how did I leave that?
Yeah.
But I like features. I like when things like that happen. They give it an element of interest right in a neat spot in the bowl. As long as that knot isn't gonna crack your shoulder.
Right.
And I get this other side. One side's always easier than the other. We're getting it tamed.
So this is the beginning of the sharp corner that interests me. But on the spoon I have of yours, that sharp corner then wraps up and around the bowl when you start to undercut
Yep.
the bowl.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, cool.
We'll do that. You're just talking back here where it kind of stems off abruptly almost from the back of it. Yep.
Yeah. I want to see that too.
I'd rather if Kyle logged off before I showed how to do that. If anyone, Kevin, can you accomplish that?
When you get to that point, I'll boot
I
Kyle.
have,
Let me
I
know.
have to go close the chicken coop, so you could do it now if you want. I'll be back.
Kyle's got to go take care of his chickens. Kyle's trying to up his Sloyd cred by mentioning
I
his.
have to take care of my wife's chickens.
Oh, your wife's chickens.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how much care you're putting in getting this plan view right.
Mhm.
I generally, once I get the plan view, there's not like a ton of I look at it this way, and like there might be some minor adjustments as time goes on, but for the most part, now you can see I've got a couple little nicks in my blade. I obviously have to sharpen it. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go.
Those will strop out.
It might actually be still like bits of the burr.
Oh, it might be recently sharpened. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I think I like carving with templates. I have no shame in templates. I know there's a lot of dogma around that, and I don't really know why. I'm not a creative guy in that, like, I don't draw in a notebook. I kind of wish I did. I'm envious of people, but I like templates. That's why the Spoon Craig's great. They've got so many.
Yeah.
Before I started using templates, I felt that I spent a lot of time holding the spoon up to the sky or the wall and trying to make the sides symmetrical or look nice. And I feel like it's an activity that I can do, but it's not fun. So I feel like the template, like frees me up from that and gives me a tool to see where the asymmetry is in a way that's really nice. And
like all this, every time I'm looking at it, I'm looking in that plan view in from above and trying to, I know I still have this corner yet to go, but, and then also from axing, this corner's high, which is pretty normal, being right-handed.
another nice thing about templates is when you are using your eye to try to establish symmetry, the grain of the spoon and the shadows of the light, they can all mess with you.
Mhm.
But a template is immune from that. Especially when you're doing a tangential spoon and the rings of the bowl can kind of, like lure you. You try to center the rings and you end up messing with the shape of your spoon.
You usually make a concerted effort to try to center the rings, or do you just let it fall how it falls?
I don't make a concerted effort. I feel like it's just as pretty and interesting when they're off center.
I agree. I don't usually like try to alter the piece of wood a ton to get it level or, symmetrical.
I feel like if you're going to try to make it perfect, there's a point where it's close enough that all people are noticing is that it's not perfect.
All right, so I'm feeling.
Yeah, I definitely don't get my plan view this exact at this early on in the process, and I'm seeing that probably has a lot of benefits down the road because I recarved that plan view several times.
Yeah, and now for the most part, like I say, this is pretty well in. I like it.
Mhm.
Looking at it, we're close enough to symmetry and on that I think I can work with that to get it roughed out. So on to I will now rough hollow it. I'll get it and make my life easier just by getting the bulk of the material that we are not going to need out of there. So
You said that one corner was high, which is pretty typical for you for your X work. I didn't see you level that, so you're leaving that as it is and you'll level it later?
well, yeah, I'm going to take off the bulk of this now with this hook knife and just get some depth, and then I just know when I come back and do the rim next, this is going to have to come down.
Yeah, much easier to level it when it's hollow, right? And you're only leveling a rim. I agree.
Much easier. This is cool looking. If we can,
Yeah.
it doesn't, this is going to be fine.
I use this grip a lot. And for a long time, I didn't see any other spoon carvers using this grip. And I wondered if it was like a Sloyd allowed grip. And I was embarrassed. I thought I was like compromising something, and I was embarrassed to see other spoon carver. I was embarrassed to let other spoon carvers see me using this grip because it looks like you're going to carve right into your palm, although I don't ever feel like I'm going to, and I haven't ever done that. This is
So in my instance, this is more of a rotational thing, more almost like akin to a Tuca cam, where it's just coming like this. So it'd be practically impossible if I'm, you know, and then you can keep it coming back all the way up to the tip.
This is a grip that I feel I overuse. I feel like I depend on this grip a lot.
This grip, I think this one is much more safe because I use the like where you pull in towards your thumb, and that seems much more dangerous because you are closing your hand, so it's likely to land in your thumb.
This grip this gets you a lot of power too, because see how he's using all his fingers and he's twisting and torquing the.
Right. And then you can kind of get on the opposite side here once you've gotten a little bit to the back.
Ryan's twerking. Did I hear that, Kevin?
It's work. Well, what? No, I didn't say Ryan's twerking.
I heard twerking.
So now I'll do.
Kyle, you missed it, but a couple of minutes ago, he was really aggressively saying things like, "Who needs a gouged George?" I thought it was really
Right.
unnecessarily aggressive, but at least we're past that point. Because he's making short work of working across that bowl.
Yeah.
Ryan, are you leaving a certain edge around, like the thickness around, or you're just going to go all the way to the edge with it?
It's not like a intentional thing. I mean, if I even go over the edge, especially on this side over here, because again, I know I'm high.
Okay.
So now when I'm coming at it, I can see that I'm cutting into the edge, but that's all right. I'm just doing the work I got to do.
Andrea, when I don't know a shape, I'll take a pencil and trace like 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch line around the rim and intentionally leave the rim. But then it just means you're going to have to widen the bowl again later. So it feels a little safer, but it means you have to do it twice. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I really know a shape, which I'm sure Ryan really knows this shape, and I can get closer to my finished rim here early, and you save yourself a lot of time coming back and trying to push that rim out. You really have to recarve the whole bowl again.
Ryan, what type of sweep and hook is that? Just out of
This
curiosity?
is the what did Kyle, is he running his mouth about now?
Gotta be a matte white, of course, right?
No, it's not a Matt White. This is
Oh.
a Nick Westerman faucet
The other.
Okay, nice.
with a Paduk wonky handle that, honest to God, I love this thing more. This handle, everything. It's like the first one I ever handled, and I love it. It's like rustic and
Nice.
so. Just kind of getting it in a general shape that I want to keep.
And hear that crunchy walnut.
Mm-hmm.
Walnut's really fun to carve because it splits so easily across the.
Yeah.
This is black one, right?
Yeah, it's black walnut. So back to the knife, and I pretty well got, with the hook knife, I pretty well got that side leveled out already.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we can see it very well at that view, that it's level.
And now I'm wanting to make this just a little bit more curvy, a little more sexually appealing, just on all the way around. So we're gonna go and just start at it, which most of the material is going to come out from this bottom section, kind of right in here, to give us a nice little.
Yeah, spoons are mostly sex appeal, and then
That's why
functions later.
That's why most people get into spoon carving, really. So here,
Curves.
we were just discussing about how the rim of a bowl isn't actually level. It's actually beveled out. And you can see that that's what Ryan's doing here.
Yeah, I don't have it totally level. I try to make it pretty well level as like liquid would go in it, but there's still a little bit of like curvature to it. The front-ish portion from like here to the tip is generally pretty flat, with a
Mhm.
little bit of curve right back here.
Yep.
And then that's kind of where it probably is going to end up tapering
Yeah.
to the tip.
Yep.
What I'm
Yeah.
talking
Alright.
about, what I'm talking about is the flat of that rim you're carving. If you put
Yeah,
a,
here.
yeah, that's not a level line with the flat of the rim on the other side of the bowl. That's gonna be, it's gonna be beveled out a little bit.
You're talking beveled this way?
Yes, like that, exactly, like that.
I do, yeah, I guess kind of. I may end up leveling it more than not. I don't know. I don't go like extreme. I'll later micro bevel it to kind of that.
Mm.
There's
Unless
exactly,
it's a sauce pack.
this is a
then-
great, this is a great angle on exactly a technique I was showing John and David last night that they were excited to learn. So we could point them at this video and they could give
Mhm.
themselves a refresher, because this is a great angle on that cut, right, Kaylin? Isn't that the
Yeah.
same here? Yeah.
Yep.
As far as I can see it here now,
Mhm.
across this way, I'm feeling pretty good about that. I don't know what, can you
Yeah.
see that? Is it focusing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty good.
So
Maybe.
you could continue to carve those corners lower and lower and lower and add more crank to the spoon, but you're resisting the desire to do that, right?
To the back here, yeah, I think it's gonna have,
That's enough. Yeah.
yeah, a funny amount of, because I'm gonna end up swooping this, which will then make it sit in your hand pretty nicely. In fact, let's do that now. So now I pretty much got the bowl in the front here. I want it. So now we're gonna just make this swoopy, which means
You're doing
kind of the same.
the same idea as the rim. You're cutting at a bevel, so it's actually a cross cut, and you can go right through a grain change there.
Yeah, and I was gonna, yes, on the angle it will. I will have to, when I go down the center, I'll have to come this way and then flip it around to kind of clean it up.
Yeah, that's another great technique that it took me a while to understand.
So you're actually leading with the bottom of the knife to get you through that grain change, because then it's cutting down here before it's cutting up here. So it's shearing it off. All right.
So I call this, what you're doing, the rule of thirds. You cut away 1/3 of the material, and it's 3 times as easy. You do 1/3, then the other, and then the middle third.
Which is really the same thing that I was doing with axing. It's just
Mhm.
the same rule of thirds. So this is, like you said, we've got a grain change directly here.
Nice. Look at that. That's awesome, the way all that wood is stacked up there.
So we do that, and then, I'm probably gonna want it some here right up at somewhere in this neck transition.
I'm really impressed watching Ryan do all this stuff, because he's just doing it all once, and he's just nailing it.
Getting it right the first time. You're not going back and like fussing with it. Done. It's beautiful.
I love how methodical it is.
Mhm.
Yes, when I was new to spoon carving, I would sit down with a piece of wood and I would feel like I was all over the place. And it was really getting a process makes you feel like you're in control of the experience, and it's way more satisfying than just cutting a little bit here, cutting a little bit there, and 84 hours later ending up with a spoon.
So I'm pretty pleased with kind of the flow from bowl, neck, handle, this little side profile. And then personally, I like the way then that this is gonna fit, because I'm gonna thin the back of this down considerably. And just how it'll end up kind of fitting in your thumb and hand there with the concavity.
Mhm.
So let's take that down a little bit. Again, with the thirds, you know, we're just gonna take these high points off.
Hey, Kate. Kate, Ryan's doing a demo for us here. Carving a cool black walnut eating spoon. So you resist the idea of picking the axe up again to cut that meat off the back of the spoon.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. It wasn't that bad. And now I've got it pretty nicely where I've just got this center section to take down, and then you can kind of see the swoopiness in this is kind of accentuated. So now,
There's always a way with a knife to make it easier on yourself if you're calm and patient and analytical. When you get frustrated and drawn into the experience where you think, why isn't this easier? I just have to work harder. But if you stay calm, you can remember that you cut the corners off and then cut the middle out. Make it easier on yourself.
Got to keep your calluses strong.
all right, so there's up here, I'm in pretty decent shape. I'm probably going to cut this end off and not do like a ball finial on this one. Actually, maybe I'll just do that right now. All right, so we got the back there, so that means we have to do the bowl. So now I'm gonna start with these sides and bring it up to the rim.
Crunchy walnut.
Mhm.
Walnut's really interesting too. Orion's carving it green and you see lots of light yellows and green streaks through it.
I know, and it'll be like predominantly brown when I see it tomorrow.
Tomorrow it'll be all chocolate brown. Yep. It's like the opposite of cherry. Cherry.
Although I think this is sapwood over here, if I remember right. This is spalty sapwood on this side, and then the heartwood is this way. So there might be a little bit of color differentiation between the two. All right, so on this side, I pretty well got it.
And you're able to just cut right across the wavy grain from the knot because you're going at an angle, right?
Yeah, I think so. It is a little bit funky, and right on the back side, there was a little bit of tear out right here, but it's also wet. That'll be something that I'm not going to take this down, you know, finish. I'll just get it roughed out here and probably finish it tomorrow.
Yeah, so you do let yours dry fully and then go over the whole spoon with finishing cuts, or just the bowl and burnish the handle?
So I'll rough it out and then I'll do finish cuts on everything.
Cool.
And like personally, as a general whole, I don't usually burnish. I'll just
Oh, nice.
knife finish.
But I think I'm seeing what you're seeing, Kalen, is I would expect there to be a grain change there that would be giving him trouble, but I think he's doing the same thing with beveled slicing cuts going right through that grain change.
Yeah, the slicing is really is always helpful. Even like the slightest bit of slice in your knife is going to be immensely helpful in making an efficient cut.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's actually kind of funny in the side profile because the top is nice. I like the way this is, let's see here.
I do too. At this point, it looks really angular. It's like a Terminator spoon.
But what's hysterical to me is how on the side now it looks so funny because it's so fat in the bottom. Just very like inelegant. So let's fix that right now. So I have to just take down this high point.
This camera work is like way better than the spoon carving. It's just
Does anybody else notice Kyle's repeating jokes?
I was gonna say, did Kyle forget he already made that joke? That was... Kyle, don't forget to do the chickens.
I did. They're closed up.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're good.
The book was new because I was late.
Oh, that was a new joke to Kate. So
Yeah, that was for Kate. Yep, that was for Kate.
Thought it was at 7. Sorry.
I feel like this is what Rise Up really like misses, is because we all carve with each other all the time, but we don't get to see how each other work. And when someone can get a second person to film up close like this, it's so valuable.
Yeah.
And so now where we're weird and funky is this extends way too far back. You know, the deepest part of my bowl is going to be like right here-ish.
Right, it's almost a dolphin spoon right now.
So this is silly. So we're just going to take that.
I'd love to hear you thinking about that because I like how to position the thickness. It's
Right.
really cool. Thank you.
I agree. I like to hear people think out loud and hear their thought process.
Mhm. And to see the difference too. Like, okay, I saw it how it looked before, and now let's see how it looks.
Yeah.
You should definitely do that.
Okay, so now we're getting a
Mhm.
little bit better, but where it looks a little bit silly still is we've got this big bunch of meat right here in the corners. Now this is where Kevin's curious.
Yep, sure am.
For the most part, it's pretty standard that again, now I am kind of visualizing whatever dimension this is. I have no idea, and it's varying because like sometimes I'll nip off too much and then I just try to follow the lowest point
Mhm.
to just make it even around. Oops. Which means I should actually make it even. I'm going to say that.
Well, here's another place where sometimes I'll trace a line. I'll do that carpenter's technique where you use your finger to make a consistent line referencing the rim.
Mm-hmm.
So this too, you can really remove a fair bit quickly because you're just kind of doing a twisting. And the slice, I think, is coming because of the way I'm pushing and it's right in the belly of the blade. So no matter what, it's inherently going to be in somewhat of a slice, right?
Mhm.
All right, so now we're at a situation that's pretty similar to what Kyle's spoon has, where it has like a rounded, what I would do is just continue this across the backside of this handle, and it would be like that rounded. But if we're trying to do an abrupt thing, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to establish a bunch of stop cuts successively deeper. And then when I come this way,
So I know exactly now where my disconnect with this is because I always carve my inner bowl to its finished shape first, and then I make the back of the spoon to match it.
Mm.
So I'm always left with, I do this once and then I decide it's too thick, and then I have to do it again, and then I decide it's too thick, and then I do it again and I decide it's too thick. But you do it right here, and then you carve the inside of the bowl to match this shape, right?
yeah, give or take. I mean, I still have some flexibility that, if I'm not, if I want to change this angle right here and make it maybe shallower, which would just mean removing some material from here and then flattening this out, I still have that possibility because I'll leave enough meat Generally, I might clean up a little bit more in the bowl before I let it dry. But for the most part, that's about the thickness I'll let it get to. And
Okay.
then I'll let it dry. Now we're just kind of, I'll refine this a little bit and make it a little bit more following of that. So then I'm kind of liking both the way this is tapering this way, but then also like in this direction from this back corner. And now I've got a nice little line established here to an abrupt stop there.
Oh yeah, that's great. Look at that. That was so
Now,
hard for me to do, and I was so unhappy with my results.
yeah. Now I got to do the other side, and the other side's a little bit harder for me. But I just got, it'll kind of split out a little bit because I'm really following this edge with the knife just barely off 90 from, you know, the thing. I guess not just barely, but more towards 90, if that makes sense.
It does.
What's hard for you on this side, Ryan? Is it the angle or?
I don't know. I think it's just the way the knife is coming in this instance. Excuse me. In this instance, I don't know. I think it's just the way you can see it, and I don't know. I think it's like with everything, unless you're Dan Lawrence and like can switch hands with knives. One side of the spoon is always slightly more challenging than another.
John Tillett says he does that too, and so does Don Naligetti, that they can just use their left hand.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. All right, so now I got to do the same thing. So we just are going to establish these this way.
Right. This is how I carve most of that corner with this grip that you're using here, which took me a while. I had to learn it from Yogi's videos and then practice it. It's a very valuable grip. All right. And I was also getting that tight inner corner by like trying to drag the tip right through the corner. But you're not using the tip to get in there and clean things out. You're just getting the edge of the blade matches your cut, and it.
Yeah, I'm not cleaning it out with the tip usually. Although I am not, so this is where I will have to like deviate a little bit, but from what this side, because it's not lining up right now, as you can see, this side's, so it's coming from somewhere. I might just have more thickness over here that I have to take out, and it looks like I kind of do. I've got to take some off this way. So this is where it kind of becomes a little bit difficult, because every little plane that's converging can change the appearance of the whole situation and what appears to be symmetrical. So then it's a challenge of like not only seeing it, but then being able to fix it. I don't know if I will. I think I can get it sorted out here.
Yeah, I mean, the carving's okay, but this camera work is.
So now I just got to get this little bit out.
I'm a little disappointed that Kyle has on a baseball cap that doesn't have on his winter beanie.
I lost it. Like, good. Keep going.
Keep
Lost your beanie.
Hung up on something right there, right? There we got it.
Mm.
We need to hear Jeff.
What do you want to hear from Jeff?
Just, I'm doing a great job or something.
Do you want her to cuss at you, Kyle?
If that's what you want.
All right. Well,
I always want to hear from the partners of spoon carvers what their favorite place in the house is to find wood chips, because I'm always impressed when there's wood chips like in the sink. I always feel like, how do wood chips get in the sink? I'm always impressed with that.
have carved into the sink on many occasions with the thought process of, oh, I'll just turn on the garbage disposal and we'll be fine.
the other day we just got a gym membership, and we've been going, with the zeal of people who have a new gym membership.
Right.
And I sat in the lobby while I was waiting for my family to whatever change after the gym. And when I stood up and looked behind me, there were wood chips on the lobby. That means that I changed my clothes, worked out, sat in the lobby. Somehow there were still wood chips on me. Who's that character from Peanuts that always has a whirlwind of dust around him?
Big Ben.
Ben,
Big Ben, yeah.
Yeah, chips are like glitter, once you start using them, they're just all around you forever.
It's amazing.
all right. So aside from, like I said, just taking and cleaning up a wee bit the rest of the bowl here, which is really just because we took out more material from this corner or this edge and this edge. I just have more there to take out. We can kind of see what it is. And I'll bring this pretty close to the rim because I've got quite a bit to be able to trim it back tomorrow when it's dry.
How do you resist just making your bowl deeper? And I think we talked about this before the recording started. Just you have such nice, shallow, evenly curved bowls.
I guess simple answer on that is I've made a lot of
Without
spoons that
impacting
have
the taper.
weird deep
Yeah.
bowls.
Okay, yeah.
But Kaylin, I think I know what you're getting at. Is I've been impressed. There's a lot of what Ryan's doing here that I think takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of discipline to do those small cuts early on and to get each facet right the first time and to get close to the line early and to leave your bowl shallow and to resist adding crank when you can add crank. I feel like a lot of that really takes a lot of discipline that must betray that he's carved a lot of spoons and he knows what he wants, Not
I
to
think-
speak for you, Ryan. Sorry about that.
I have carved way too many spoons, and I don't know, on this one, I feel like I've kind of arrived at something I feel pretty comfortable with on this particular shape.
But I agree with Kaylin. The spoons are, you hear people say an eating spoon is surprisingly shallow, and I feel like Ryan's really found it. He really found
Yeah.
really found the minimum amount of depth or the maximum amount of shallow. And it makes it really comfortable and really nice to eat with.
Yeah, it's by far my favorite eating spoon because of that. And then the bottom of it still has that thickness for the strength in the bowl. And I even think it might be your technique with your hook knife, because I think my technique just digs in so deeply, and then I end up with grain change issues that I keep going back and fussing with, trying to clean them up. And by the time I clean them up, my bowl is twice as deep as I intended it to be.
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing when you have a little bit of tear out that necessitates you then recarving the entire bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones I'm happiest with, I think, towards the front of the bowl, almost flat, and then the back, you can make a reservoir, just kind of like a little deeper. But
that's probably more my my theory on a lot of it too. Yeah, is that of it's deeper and then deeper in the back, especially with a big ass bowl like this. I've got a lot of real estate to be able to hold. Even like a mouth or a spoonful of soup or whatever isn't that much liquid when you really think about it. So I think with this, I've got enough that I can keep it somewhat deep here, and then it just kind of pours off in the front. At least that's my theory.
Yep.
Yeah, so now I'm just kind of probably futzing more than I need to, but just getting it
Feel like what you're doing here is you're carving away the rim that you left when you cleaned up the rim on those beveled cuts.
for the most part. Yeah, I mean, generally, again, it's the handedness thing. So I usually have to take more off of this side, the walls, to get it comparable to what I think is happening when I'm doing these kind of twisting cuts. So then I have to come back over here and do something similar-ish. to get this side, you know, the symmetry of this brought down so that it looks like something that I can let dry. And we're about there, I would say.
Nice.
Would you recess would you recess the bowl now, or would you do that later with the smoothing cuts, with the dry cuts?
I would, this is where I would probably end right now. And then when I come back, once it's dry, my procedure there is I'm going to first clean up this rim and make this whole profile exactly fine-tuned how I like it. Then I'm going to bring the bottom side, the back side of the bowl up to that rim with a narrow little distance, enough so that I can come back and micro chamfer it. Right.
Do you think your rim, so the thickness of your rims is really just the two micro chamfers like meeting each other?
Yeah, practically, yeah. There might be a wee bit of in between it, but yeah, pretty much. So I'll have, you know, this established, then I'm going to thin this out how I like it and taper it in to the tip and pretty much have the back of the bowl here done. Then I'll probably come back with a hook knife. Oftentimes I will do finishing cuts with like an open sweep. I'll use most often the Robin Wood open sweep hook and finish it up. But I can use the faucet too and get essentially the same finish. Really any hook, I would say. Right, so we get the bowl cleaned up, and then that's just about it, you know. Then it's whatever details I want to make in the rest of the spoon, you know. I will once over knife everything so that it's nice, smooth, fresh cut when it's dry. And then just put little bevels, you know. Oftentimes the top of my spoon and the handle is totally flat in this way, if that makes sense. And then with just a little chamfer on the sides. So again, that it just kind of fits on your thumb.
Nice.
Just like that. Then I'll thin out the back and do whatever details I want with, you know, I'll probably end up bringing this in. So it's actually more of a, probably more of a trapezoidal shape on the back of this than anything. And yeah, that's about it. That's at that point you'd have a finished spoon. However you want to rectify this, if I want to round it off or just leave it, might be able to make a little standing spoon. I'm not sure.
Nice. All right, I have one more question, and then if anyone else has questions, they can go after me. My question is, can I have dibs on that spoon?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, man, you can have it.
I totally want dibs on that spoon because this has been an awesome experience. I've really enjoyed watching you carve. I feel like I'm gonna follow when this video is on YouTube. I got 2 more blanks, and I feel like I'm gonna follow your process around. Well, I'd have to almost go back to a square to really follow it. I could do that. All right. Anyone else have any? Anyone else?
This is the problem of wood carving. I get wood chips in my pants like none other. I mean,
Oh yeah.
This is what gets everywhere for me.
In the cuffs of the pants, yeah.
Yeah.
In the pockets. There's so many wood chips in my pockets. I wear a lot of cargo pants with hip pockets and they get everywhere. Anyone else have any questions for Ryan? Or Ryan, you have any last thoughts? I'm glad you walked us through what you're gonna do tomorrow. That's helpful.
Glad it was helpful. Glad I could be of assistance.
Oh, I thought it was really great. I thought there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there people can watch and people can learn from, me included.
Yeah,
Cool, I hope so.
I appreciated just kind of each stage that you went through, talking about how you were going to connect the shape to itself, like the bowl shape, and then how you were defining the handle. Because I think you've got a real elegance and grace in your spoons, as well as them being very strong. And so thank you. Yeah, this was really, really helpful.
Well, thank you. You guys are flattering, so I really appreciate it. You keep it coming.
The methodical process, I think, is really valuable. I find a process really makes me feel like I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing and I'm in control of the process. I'm not all over the place, kind of wandering through the forest.
It's really interesting because before this, I don't think I would have described my as like a methodical process in any way, but I think I've pretty well learned that perhaps I'm wrong and it is a little bit more step by step than I realized.
What we just saw tonight was really methodical and well thought out and well strategized, I thought.
And
And
I
that's
really-
pretty much what I've done, you know, with anything with spoon blank orders or anything like that. So I guess it's just been locked in that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I appreciated you sharing your thought process. That was really helpful for me to understand how you're making the decision to move to the next step and why. And that was really helpful.
Cool. Cool.
All right. So anyone else have questions? If not, I'll say thank you on behalf of Rise Up and Carve. Thanks for all your help and your support of the community.
Yeah, truly my pleasure. Any questions, and feel free to reach out at me, Fireside Floyd.
And I think so. What'll happen is now I'll stop the recording, and then I think Chuck will grab it and put it up on YouTube probably sometime tomorrow. So
Cool.
thank you very much, Ryan. That was wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Very good.